I am most likely going to get a bit of hate for this, but I don't care because I am pissed off. I have been a fan of Star vs. the Forces of Evil since the very beginning of the show. I have watched every single episode to date, have taken note of every plot twist, plot moment and character arc, and have come to the conclusion that the final season of Star vs. the Forces of Evil is a hot narrative mess that misses every opportunity to give the series a satisfying and emotional climax, and instead makes its plot even more contrived and brings up more questions than it does answers. All of these are mainly issues in the second half of the season, and I will be going over the episodes that I feel have the most impact on why this season was just a whole lot of nothing. As for the first half, all I can say is that it is either completely fine or incredibly boring depending on your level of tolerance. I was the latter. Now I am completely aware that Disney basically cucked Darren Nafsi and her crew by giving the show 4 seasons and then abruptly cancelling it, so they had to rush the story along, but you still cannot accept a bad product simply because it was rushed, and I can think of at least 100 different ways they could have ended the show that were a million times better. I will also be going over episodes 12 to 21 and all of the segments in between. I will try to cover each episode as quickly as I can, and I know this should go without saying, but it is perfectly fine to like this season and the finale. You can love it all you want. My job here is not to turn you against something that you love. With that being said, on with the video. The 2 segments in episode 12 present the clearest problem in this season. It wastes so much fucking time. There is barely anything to take note of in these episodes other than Jana getting horny over a metal shoe and introducing one of Eclipse's spells. You see, this is where my problem with this season being rushed comes from. They have all this time to build up the final climax and keep the story going, but instead they choose to have a filler episode about Tom sledding in a boot and an episode of Scooby-Doo. Between both of these episodes, there is approximately 21 minutes of runtime, which is plenty of time to explain things, build up an ongoing plot, build on the lore, foreshadow an event, stuff like that. But instead they dedicate about 20 seconds in the first segment to showing that Mina is planning something, and then in the next segment, instead of having Eclipse explaining her spells to Star or something and then making an interesting episode out of that, they instead give us another episode about Star's spells, who we do not give 2 shits about, just so they can play hide and seek with Eclipse's most powerful spell. We don't give 2 shits about Star's spells having dedicated episodes. They add literally nothing to the story, and when they do, they have the effect of a wet flannel being thrown at a brick wall. So much time has already been wasted when that time could have been put to use to make sure the story didn't seem so goddamn rushed.
Jana, hold on one second. Let me get this. Yeah, okay. I just wanted to say that I wanted to say that thank you for bringing me along on your, I don't know what to do with myself when Star is, hold on again. Oh, you know when she's at one of her meetings. It's what it's like being in a serious relationship.
This is the final season of the show and we're still getting random filler episodes when the focus should be concluding the fucking story. All we get from this is that Mina is the antagonist, which is something we already knew. I am also tired of these random filler episodes trying to add some stakes to the plot, as if we gave enough for half-awake bother about them in the first place. The Magic High Commission explained that dark magic is being used in the Monster Temple, and this is supposed to be shocking to us for some reason. And if it wasn't for the obvious fact that Eclipse fucking lives here, then yes, maybe that could have generated some sort of shocked reaction. But instead, it just makes us confused as to what the point was. The show has made it clear in a previous episode that Eclipse wants to free Globgore just to be with him again. I mean, sure, to the High Commission it must be concerning, but there is literally no reason why we have to see this. After wasting nearly 2 minutes of the episode with Star and Eclipse just standing around doing absolutely nothing. And I will get to this later, but this season completely ruins the High Commission, and I mean every single one of them. At this point, if they just saw Eclipse breathe, they would accuse her of starting the damned Holocaust. It's that ridiculous, especially because in the previous season they got called out for doing this shit. They have completely removed any hint of character that these characters once had and have turned them into one-dimensional pricks who act on literally every tiny step Eclipse makes. The Magic High Commission is magically high. What was even the point of showing us these episodes of Star's spells when they add nothing to the plot, and even if they were meant to be filler, they're just a chore to sit through? I came to watch a show about a magical princess and her best friend fight the forces of evil. I did not sign up to watch the show's character development be invested in a spider with a fucking top hat. Remember when this show was part action and had a reason to be named Star vs. the Forces of Evil because they could actually animate action scenes? These episodes were utterly pointless and lost. It doesn't make me as angry as later episodes in this season do, but it's overall a very confusing and boring pair of episodes. The two segments in episode 13 are a lot better than the previous two, and one of them is actually pretty decent, but the first segment still presents a lot of the same problems. It's one of Marco's adventures with Hekapu in the multiverse again, which I actually really like, but this time Tom is here and the episode is dedicated to him learning how to ride a dragon cycle and overcoming his insecurities over acting cool. While I appreciate giving Tom a lot more depth and believable character moments, unlike another episode this season, this episode has literally no effect on the story whatsoever. There's not even a teaser at the end for Mina or something else. It's a full-on filler episode. I mean, at least it's a decent filler episode, but that still does not excuse wasting so much time again. This is about 10 minutes and 30 seconds of possible story moments down the fucking toilet. And if you were to make a filler episode at this point, at least try to make it interesting. I miss the days when the multiverse was an exciting and interesting concept in this show, but now all we seem to get are blandly coloured wastelands. Remember when Tom was actually independent from Star? Now it feels like he literally can't order an ice cream without literally shattering into glass. The next episode actually has some sort of bearing on the plot and is genuinely heartwarming. It starts with Eclipsa going on a date with Globgor, and initially I thought I had missed an episode or something because Globgor was still in his crystal last time I checked. But they revealed towards the end that this is just Eclipsa entering Globgor's mind through the crystal just to go on a date with him, and the ending is actually quite heartbreaking because it actually feels like these are two characters, which is something I haven't seen at all at any point this season, but I have seen countless times in the previous 3, because the show has decided it would much rather spend 2 minutes of Eclipsa coughing up donuts than developing its characters. This episode alone made Eclipsa my favourite character on the show, because while all the other characters this season barely have any moments between them that feel genuine, Eclipsa just keeps growing as a character, and it makes episodes like these actually have an impact on the story because you know what Eclipsa is feeling on the inside and the pain she feels not being able to let her husband out of the crystal. And we also get introduced to Globgor finally, and he is not all I expected, but that's actually a good thing. And he actually works with Eclipsa really well, and he actually doesn't want to stay in the crystal because he doesn't want his family to get hurt. These feel like actual characters, and it's why I consider this to be one of the few good episodes in this season. The reason I'm taking my time telling you why this is a good episode in an angry review is because no other episodes in this season hold a candle to this one, and it frustrates me. Eclipsa is honestly the only character worth rooting for at this point because Star is always on the bench and Marco just stands around waiting to be useful. Moon, well, we'll get to that later. It feels like every character that the show started with has either turned into a plank of wood or a selfish asshole. It's like all the good writing was poured into this episode on accident, and Nefty was like, well shit guys, guess we have to end this show in a way that isn't satisfying to the people who've wasted 4 years of their life watching it. But it's good to know this show actually has a defining moment for Eclipsa, and this could probably contribute to the finale in some way, to possibly create a heartwarming and maybe even emotional moment. Then the next episode, Globgor is immediately let out. For fuck's sake. Already we are getting ahead of ourselves with the already prevalent creative bankruptcy. You literally just had a moment that should have time to linger, and you acted on animal fucking instincts and released Globgor anyway, you sank muppets. Can you have one moment of this show that is properly built up? This script is actually fucking spasticated. Now I have no problem with this episode's concept and overall it's fine, but this is just not the right time to have it. This should have had some sort of place in the finale because this episode's conclusion was genuinely satisfying. But it would have been so much better if it was included at some point in the finale. All of the hate towards monsters in Eclipsa finally comes to a close at the sight of Globgor finally being revealed for who he is, someone who fell in love who was misunderstood. That would have made for such a satisfying moment that could have elevated the finale to being decent instead of what we actually got. In fact, just putting this episode later into the season would have been a much better idea. It would be an emotional moment for Eclipsa, a relief for Star, and then they could possibly all come together to stop Mina in a 45-minute, possibly 2-parter special. I know this is wishful thinking, but it is miles better than what they decided to do. I mean shit, Globgor doesn't do anything after this other than a few lines and punching a suit made of plot armor a few times, so this would have been a good way to end the story instead of having Globgor just sit around and do nothing. And honestly, what is up with the Magic High Commission at this point? I cannot tell which one of these guys is either good, bad, or neutral. Remember when these guys were good guys and were just metaphors for this show's underlying theme about racism? I mean, besides Hekapu, but she changes her personality all the goddamn time, and I don't even know what this guy's name is, but he's even more problematic than Hekapu is, simply for the fact that he has a defined moral compass one episode, and we don't see him again for another 10 episodes, and then he's completely changed like a child with ADHD trying to play Connect 4. Romulus is apparently just a one-dimensional racist now, which is disappointing because he was actually a character in season 2 who actually developed, and that's just fun, isn't isn't it? When a show completely tears characters down to fit what half-assed story they're trying to tell. Remember when these characters fought Toffee to protect the kingdom and were considered heroes? Why is Romulus a monster-hating twat now? Having this episode end by revealing Romulus let Globgor out just so they can try and arrest Eclipsa isn't surprising at all, considering the fact that this is what, the 18th billionth fucking time these idiots have tried to ruin what Eclipsa wants to do? Why should we be shocked at all? Go and plan another meeting, you bipolar chavs. Overall, this episode was fine, but it presents a lot of problems and would have been so much better if parts of it were in the finale, and it really degrades every member of the High Commission. The two segments that make up episode 15 are painful to sit through, and it's about the point where I began to lose my patience with the season and started getting angry because, considering we are now 6 episodes away from the fucking finale, we should not be having filler episodes on Echo fucking Creek and a random montage of Star saying goodbye to people. The first segment is just 10 minutes of Star and Tom saying goodbye to people until Star starts delaying going on their trip because she doesn't know where she wants to go, which makes Tom angry because reasons, and then he fucks off to go on the trip himself because he thinks him and Star need some time apart. Boo fucking who? You call Star and Tom to split apart randomly because your shithouse of an episode doesn't have enough plot twists yet. This show believes that it's perfectly acceptable to end nearly every single episode with a series-changing plot twist, because they're afraid that no one will be engaged long enough, and also because they've likely been sent 100 letter bombs a day from angry Starco shippers, along with about 100 angry emails from Facebook moms complaining that Tom promotes Satanism. So they just went fuck it, split them apart at random. We also dedicate about a full minute to a talking broom voiced by Justin Roiland. I am not fucking kidding, we dedicate a full goddamn minute to a mentally retarded broom in an episode that is already filler by nature. How can you still manage to waste time in an episode that was made to waste time? Go home, show, you're fucking drunk. Marco's sister was also in this episode. The next segment is basically 10 minutes of absolutely nothing because it's Echo Creek, the most boring part of the show, and thanks to the show's downgrading animation, I can't even look at this place for a full minute because all the good colours have been sucked out from it. The colours are bright and bland at the same time, only in Star vs. the Forces of Evil, ladies and gentlemen. So you're telling me that in the later half of the final season, instead of drawing our attention to ending the show on a satisfying note, building up a final climax, or doing anything that other shows typically do when creating a finale, you're going to make me sit here and watch Marco eat tacos for 10 minutes so he can win a free shirt. What the fuck are you doing, show? Marco's friends were also in this episode. Also, Jackie is bisexual now. I appreciate the effort and all, but no one has cared about Jackie for the longest time, and you've already shown that Star is bisexual herself, including in this episode. This episode serves absolutely no purpose other than basically saying, hey, remember all those annoying side characters you didn't like? Yeah.
Well, now you get to see them again!
There's also a running joke in this episode of how the characters keep thinking Marco's sister is his child, which is a really funny meme because they look really similar and Marco feels uncomfortable because of it, which is just the funniest thing I have ever. How the fuck does this count as humor? Starfan 13 was also in this episode. What's this? More fucking around? That sounds absolutely amazing. And wow, they decided to do it on an episode that we actually thought would be important. That's just fun, isn't it? Beach Day is an episode that's been anticipated for a while now because it sounds like an episode that would seem normal on the surface, but would have so much more to it, seeing as how it intends on tying up the loose end of the Beach Day photo that Father Time gave Star. And I guess it sort of does that, but in the worst possible way. We find out that this photo was just Star trying to tell her past self that everything was going to be okay in the future, and then nothing happens in the episode except for Starco fan service. Fucking keck. That's nice of you, show. Thank you for showing us more of something that we already know is going to happen, and then bringing back Father Time for the most utterly retarded reason you could think of. What a waste of fucking time that was. Once again, this show is wasting too much time on an episode that people thought would be one of the best in the series. I mean, sure, the Starco moments are cute if unnecessary and the episode is average, but my problem is that it's Beach Day, a concept that has been a mystery to the show for the longest time, only to be so underwhelming. Also, I find it extremely unlikely that some random old lady just happened to take a picture of a teenage couple. So she was just watching them and took a picture of them only to tell them after deciding it was weird to take photos of people without their permission. That's just... wow, okay. Is there any other way you could have gotten around that instead of having some random citizen take a photo on a very specific camera that isn't common at all in today's society? The next segment, however, is a lot more interesting. for about 5 minutes before it smacks its face against a mentally retarded broom. Hekapu just randomly barges in and tells Marco to stay on Earth and to not go to Muni because stuff is going down. Hekapu, these are the two people who defeated Toffee, tried to stop Meteora from destroying the kingdom, and are the two closest allies to the fucking queen. Protecting them, just because they're teenagers, especially when one is a fucking butterfly, is the worst decision you could have possibly made, you inept wanker. If anything, telling these two will make them come to Muni because— fuck this, you guys know this is stupid. The rest of the episode then gets a lot more interesting, if contrived, because Meteora and Marco's sister are taken to Hekapu's dimension, meaning they could possibly be older by the time Star and Marco find them, which amplifies the stakes a lot because these are two babies that have been taken to an alternate dimension and could have grown a lot older by now. Unfortunately, this is then ruined by this. Why the fuck did Hekapu leave this portal open? Even if she didn't care for the baby, she should have closed this portal because it makes zero fucking sense for it to be left open. How did they get in the portal? I'm going to assume that Marco's sister and Meteora are barely 1-year-olds at this point. Well, it makes sense that Meteora could get out. Marco's sister shouldn't be able to get out at all. Did Meteora help her or something? This scene is so goddamn contrived. This makes zero fucking sense at all. I guess Nefsi just forgot. The episode then introduces Meteora and Marco's sister as teenagers because of how differently time works in this dimension, and then the rest of the episode just stops being interesting and turns into another time waster. Especially because the climax of this episode is Meteora and Mariposa, I'm not Mexican, I don't know how to pronounce that, turning back into babies, and then this is never mentioned again. It adds no development to these characters because they're babies, and it isn't even brought up again in the finale. The show is going off the rails. You're telling me that something this impactful to Marco doesn't even get mentioned again? In the segments for episode 17, the finale finally sets itself up a lot more, but not before more time wasting and moments that make absolutely no fucking sense at all. My first point, the first segment begins with Tom returning from his trip and being with Star on Echo Creek again, until this happens.
Your Highness has the floor.
Star, I think we should break up.
Wait, why?
There comes a time in all forms of media consumption where you are so utterly bewildered by an event taking place that there are so many things wrong with it that you don't have words and you simply laugh.
Star, I appreciate the effort, but, you know, at the end of the day, it's not about what you do or what you don't do, it's about where you're headed.
When I saw this sequence for the first time, I wish I had recorded it. I burst out laughing, struggling to compose myself, and I was fundamentally blown away at what in the world I was seeing. And the kicker? I wasn't even entirely sure of why.
And you and me, we're headed to different places.
It's like so many issues cascade on your brain at once, you are overwhelmed and you couldn't possibly pass it out in the amount of time you have left before something utterly ridiculous happens on top of what you just saw.
Well, at least we'll always be friends, right?
No, I can't do that. You're a really great person, that's exactly why I think being friends would be too painful for me.
So that's why we have videos like the one you are listening to now, to have a moment to think, to collect information and lay out what happened. Because what the fuck?
No, this isn't actually on my screen. Literally 2 episodes ago, you were completely fine to Star, now your character has done a complete 180. Jesus fuck, this isn't even excusable for normally rushing a conclusion, this was just lazy. So apparently this is supposed to be a shocking moment because Tom's been gone so long and has now decided to break up with Star after all that time. But thanks to this show delightfully wasting its time, we don't get to see Tom change as a character over time to make this decision, and he hasn't even gone for more than 5 episodes. This is such pathetic story writing. You wanted to rush Starco this much that you would sacrifice genuinely emotional moments and moments that made your characters feel like actual people for making Star single again. Why didn't we get an episode showing at least a smidge of Tom growing as a character to make this decision? This comes out of absolutely bum fucking nowhere, and we're supposed to just be fine with this as if we're the same fangirls who crave for Starco on Tumblr, and we're not people who are interested in good writing. Like seriously, if Starco is your end goal for this show, then at least try and make it seem the slightest bit earned, because this is just utterly lazy. This episode is then 8 minutes of Star and Tom not being able to use their powers because the breakup is, and I paraphrase, too emotional for them. This show has lost the fucking plot. We've seen Star be angry and sad using her powers before, she has broken up with Tom before and everything. This is such a fucking ass pull. Then by the end of the episode we get maybe a hint that it might have not been the breakup, as the portals aren't working either, even though portals have nothing to do with magic, as dimensional scissors are not exclusive to Muni. So this presents two options. Number 1, the breakup did cause Star and Tom's powers to break, which is utterly ridiculous. Or, number 2, Star and Tom are fucking dumbasses for even thinking this was the case after all they've been through, and that something is actually happening on Muni that is causing this. Okay, so apparently it's revealed in the finale that Hekapu's the one responsible for closing the portals, but at the same time that makes absolutely no fucking sense, and here is why. Portals are not connected to magic, as you can buy dimensional scissors anywhere you can in the multiverse. This show needs to stop using the concept of magic to explain everything that doesn't make fucking sense in it. Also, Tom not being able to portal down to the underworld is utter horseshit, as that still isn't connected to magic either, and it's not really a portal, it's more like a gateway that's not really a portal. In fact, if you were going to have Tom not being able to make portals, then why the fuck is the fire coming out of the ground? It makes absolutely no sense. How the fuck do his powers work on the roof? Also, why the fuck did Hekapu feel the need to tell Star and Marco about this when she could have just closed the portals and left them to do their own thing? Also, if Hekapu is able to control all the portals, and how the fuck is she able to control the portals created by Star's butterfly form? That makes absolutely no sense. Star's butterfly form is technically a power. You cannot fucking take a power from the butterfly form. That is just utter horseshit. The next segment is about Star, Tom, and Marco finding Jana so they can try and find out how she got to Muni without dimensional scissors. This would be interesting if it wasn't for the episode and deciding it wants to be part filler as well, and then dedicate 6 minutes of it to absolute fluff, before finding the magic well underneath Britta's that Star and Moon couldn't open in season 3. It then potentially brings up something really interesting. The first Mumans could have been normal humans who went down the well. We already know that the first Mumans were settlers who washed up on Muni through the magic dimension, so this could have been explored greatly and could have brought up something about the people of Earth banding together to go to Muni and fight, or possibly acting as a bridge between both worlds. I know this is wishful or ridiculous thinking, but it is miles better than what we ended up going with. This is then brushed aside and never discussed. Why? What? What the fuck are you doing, show? Stop throwing away all of your potentially decent ideas. These two segments just culminated into a hot mess of missed potential and utter bullshit. If you were going to dedicate a large portion of the episode to Jana, then why didn't you explore her character a lot more? She's a teenager that's involved with gangs and back alley deals. This is such an interesting and surprisingly mature plot thread that could explain some things about Jana. She's always had this mystery surrounding her as the show went on, and maybe, just maybe, you could have given her some natural development instead of just shoehorning in the fact that she cares about people towards the end. Instead of all of this, we get 2 minutes of our main characters collecting tennis balls. I am not making this shit up. I am putting these two episodes together because there isn't much to discuss with them. The first segment in episode 18 specifically doesn't have that many problems, but the second segment declares that the portals aren't working for some reason, which raises a lot of fucking questions as to why, but we never get an answer. They just aren't working because the plot demands it. They aren't connected to magic or anything, they just aren't working, including Star's phone as well. Cool, that's totally not an annoying plot hole, fuck off. How do you screw shit like this up? Who is in charge of continuity on this show? Why are the portals broken if they aren't connected to magic? The writing in this episode is fucking garbage. Apparently in this episode, the entire kingdom is under attack by a giant wearing literal plot armor. I am not fucking kidding, that is what it is. There is no reason as to why these things are so strong, and even later when we find out that these are Solarian warriors, they still cannot power up a suit, they can only control it. Meaning that Eclipsa not being able to make a dent in the armor is a fucking ass pull. Episode 19's first segment is boring and the action is stiff as fuck. The show should just stop trying to do action scenes because it clearly can't do them anymore since they don't have the budget for colourful or fluid animation. Seriously, we've gone from this to fucking this. Do you see why they shouldn't do action scenes anymore? And if you are going to attempt action scenes again, at least try and make sure it lasts longer than a few punches and kicks because it's pathetic and not satisfying at all. And also, only reserve it for epic climaxes instead of randomly shoehorning it in during an episode that isn't the finale. May I also mention how the main characters don't fight Mina at all? Oops, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll get to that one later. Star's friends were also in this episode. The next segment in episode 19 is a lot better but still incredibly average. The only saving grace of this episode is Starco being confirmed at the end, which was cute and all, but should have been reserved for the finale because then the scene at the end would be, I'm getting ahead of myself, I'll get to that one later. Then at the end, we find out that Moon has had Mina working for her the entire time. Oh my fucking god, show, what is your fetish for bullshit plot twists? And I know the next episode calls Moon out on this, but how much of a fucking dumbass do you you have to be to enlist the help of a mentally insane Sailor Moon knockoff just because you want to have the throne back. Your character has the depth and intelligence of a melted piece of plastic, you fucking salad. Both segments of episode 20 are fucking awful. The beginning of the first just amplifies how much of a traitorous asshole Moon is, and then shows how much of a dumbass she is for entrusting a mentally insane warrior who wants to kill all monsters when she asks Mina to stand down and leave Eclipsa alone, only for Mina to then want to kill them as well. That went so well for you, didn't it, you absolute weapon? Hekapu saves him just in time, because of course she does, and then the next segment happens, where Glossaric is just in the tavern they're in for some reason, and Star enters his eye to confront him. While this is happening, Moon and Eclipsa play pool and go over things Moon did that impacted the story, which is jarring because she hasn't done anything since season 2 when she used to be a character instead of a plot device, and how she was basically playing both sides of the war like Emperor fucking Palpatine by helping both Mina and Eclipsa. It then goes to some flashbacks that could act as helpful exposition and could show Moon's reasoning for why she did what she did and could allow us to have some sort of understanding for her and make her likable again, but it cuts off every time they go into a flashback. It cuts. We get no information or anything, we're just given unsatisfying and frustrating glimpses of what could have been a better episode. But that's not the worst part. Star's character does a complete 180 and she just randomly decides she hates all magic and wants it destroyed. What the fuck is coherency in this goddamn show anymore? Not once throughout the entire series do we get a hint at Star going against magic and vowing to destroy it. Sure, she's been through hell because of it, but you need to show it having a fucking effect on her. She's been fine with magic throughout the show. It was the royal being a princess shit that she hated, but apparently this is a good idea all of a sudden and the only idea they can go with. How Star can go from happy-go-lucky magical princess to destroy the magic now is ridiculous. My guess is that they were going to show some sort of character moments of her losing it. I guess Nefsi just forgot. Star confronts Glossaric and concludes that destroying the magic is the best idea they have, but that Marco won't be with her after it as he isn't in her tapestry. Also, just a side note, why the fuck does this tapestry show Star using magic if this is meant to be after the magic is destroyed? In fact, why is this a tapestry of her when Eclipsa is the fucking queen? Star isn't even a princess anymore, what the fuck? This show has lost the plot, now it has just lost its fucking mind. Here it is, the finale of the show. I'll admit, I was feeling hopeful they would somehow turn it around and make something special. Something to be remembered by. Perhaps they could have had some sort of epic or emotionally charged climax. Maybe they could make this mess of a season worth it. But no. This is what happened instead. Hekapu makes her last appearance by not showing any genuine care towards anything. May I remind you that this is her last appearance. All of that time we've used up getting to know this character and she's just written out of the show on another out of character mood swing. If she cares so much about everything else, then why the fuck does she not care about Star destroying the magic? Something that she is made out of? Marco takes the wand and transforms it back into his wand from that one season 3 episode. I'll get to this later. They all go to the magic dimension where they find that Tom has been completely corrupted after he was left there. Marco goes to take care of Tom and Star finds out that pudding is the only thing that can stop everyone from losing their minds in the magic dimension because of Glossaric. And apparently Marco just has a lot of it for some reason that's never elaborated on. He didn't even know what the pudding did, but okay, I guess he just has a lot of it. Star, Moon, and Eclipsa put their hands in the magic and do the whispering spell, which begins to kill the magic. And then ghosts of the previous queens show up and start smiling. Fucking smiling. This makes no sense. Why are they smiling? Why are they here? They're destroying the magic, something they've lived with their whole lives. There is no reason for them to be smiling. They don't even know what's happening. On Muni, River tries to hide and heal injured Globgor, but Mina finds them and goes to the magic sanctuary and goes to the magic dimension. Excuse me? Mina? What the fuck are you doing? You have your main fucking target in your sight being healed and you just walk past him? I thought the entire reason you went out here was to find Globgor so you can make the feeling of pushing off all the monsters off the cliff feel complete. And now you're just going to ignore him? Fine, fuck you, show. Why should I care about these characters if their plot armor is so thick that it makes people literally forget what their entire character motivation was? Mina finds them all destroying the magic and goes to attack them, but then she gets beaten up by a horse and drowned in the magic. What the fuck are you people smoking?
And furthermore, I'm gonna your mother.
An all-powerful being who has been built up all throughout the season, the main antagonist, someone who Moon, Eclipse, and Star couldn't defeat and take care of, was defeated by a fucking horse. Was this supposed to be played for laughs? Was this actually supposed to be funny? Okay, no, that was fucking awful. The main antagonist doesn't even get a fight or a satisfying comeuppance. Fuck right off. Even though each season finale has gotten progressively worse, one thing they've all had in common is delivering a satisfying end to the main antagonist of the season. Here, they couldn't be fucking bothered, so they just let her get jumped by a horse. What the fuck? Also, Marco manages to bring Tom's sanity back, but shockingly gets stabbed through the chest. This actually shocked me when I saw it, and the way they had Marco cover it up told me that something bad would happen to him. Marco is a very likable character and was my favorite character for the longest time, so even throwing around the idea of killing him was bold and a very welcome choice in my book. Unfortunately, this isn't my book, this is Nefsi's, so it doesn't mean anything. Marco was stabbed but feels completely fine, no pain, limping, none of that, he's fine. Fuck right off, show. You made this moment all dramatic and had a shot that should probably foreshadow what's to come, but instead you turn it into a fucking punchline. Star, Eclipse, and Moon manage to destroy the magic once and for all, and Star and Marco are forcefully separated before Star jumps back down the well to go find Marco. The two then exchange their love for each other here, in a scene that would be heartbreaking and emotional if they didn't already go ahead and confirm Starco 2 episodes before. Think about how better this scene would be if they confirmed Starco here. It would be a lot more impactful. Then Star and Marco's cheeks light up and the magic dimension is destroyed. So we're still not getting an explanation as to what is up with Marco's cheeks. Why does he have these cheek marks? Is he a butterfly? Is he a Mumin? Does the wand just do that to anyone who touches it? Does it only do it for Mumins? Marco can't be Mumin because his parents are human. Is this where that plot thread you brought up of the first Mumins being humans was going to play some sort of part? Even if that was the case, that makes no fucking sense because the wiki clearly states that the only Mumins with these cheek marks are descendants of the butterfly family and Festivia. Can it choose who is worthy of using magic? I guess Nefsi just forgot. After this, Star ends up in the river somehow and Moon brings her back to shore, where they find that everyone is okay. There's no telling how much time has passed, but seeing as the monsters are still on the cliff, I say it's probably been at the most half an hour. And apparently Globgor has been healed along with everyone else, which brings up more questions. What would the swords of Solarian warriors use? Technological? Magic? Did the corrupted wounds just fade away as soon as the magic was destroyed, or were they healed? I find it incredibly hard to believe everyone was healed in that amount of time, especially because many of them were near death. Glosaric also sadly died in the magic dimension because he himself is magic, so that means the Magic High Commission are all dead as well, including Hekapu. Does anyone seem to care? Nope, not at all. No one fucking cares. That's just so wrong. What the fuck is this show doing? The Magic High Commission get their characters completely assassinated, Hekapu gets a few seconds of screen time for her final appearance, and then dies alone at a random tavern. No heartfelt goodbye or anything. Romulus and Skull Kid's deaths are treated as a punchline to a lame joke and no one cares that they're dead. Mina is also somehow still alive, but doesn't have any powers now, and everyone just lets her get away. Fucking arrest her, Eclipse, you're the fucking queen. Then suddenly, a massive portal appears out of nowhere. There is no explanation as to why this is here or what caused it, but I'll get to that in a bit. Marco wakes up on Earth along with Janna, who admits that she's actually a friend to Marco, as if this was supposed to be a satisfying conclusion to a character arc, even though there was no character arc in the first place. Marco and Janna notice the same portal in the distance. Marco and Star in both of their worlds run towards the portal until it eventually explodes. Marco wakes up to find that this explosion has somehow fused Muni and Earth together. What? He sees Star in front of him and they both walk towards each other. They both say hi to each other and then it cuts to black and ends the episode. It cuts. It fucking cuts. Why? And that was the end of Star vs. the Forces of Evil. Jesus Christ, what a broken dumpster fire. Okay, let's break everything down right here. The ending fucking sucks. The world now has to cope with interdimensional weirdness now that Earth and Muni are fused, and there's no flash forward to see how the world copes with being overrun with monsters and stuff now. And then Star and Marco just look at each other and say hi, and then it cuts to black. It cuts. What the fuck? No satisfying payoff, no final shot of all of the main characters, no goodbyes, no emotions, no nothing. I feel like they got wrapped up in trying to leave it on a sweet and soft cliffhanger that was meant to be something meaningful, but realized they couldn't make it meaningful because they had no reason or meaningful way to end this bastardization of a season, because all the good writing went away when they thought of the idea of wishing the magic away. Where was the satisfying climax for characters you've gotten people invested in for the last 4 fucking years? I guess Nefsi just forgot. Magic doesn't make any fucking sense anymore, and interesting moments built up throughout the entire season were completely wasted. Magic is magic, I get that, but somehow fusing Muni and Earth together is so fucking dumb. My suspension of disbelief is broken by that. There is no possible way that makes any sense when it wasn't even built up. Star and Marco bonding in a dying magic dimension does not create a massive fuck-off portal that explodes that fuses worlds together. Their love was so strong it fused both worlds together. Do you realize how fucking stupid that sounds? And also, what the fuck is up with Marco now? In season 3, when it showed him using Star's wand and having his cheeks glow up, I thought they were going to answer that with some sort of interesting direction, but they just brushed it off completely. Mina being the villain was an interesting idea, and I was semi-excited to see where they went with it. Unfortunately, they turned her into a metaphor for racism, and then proceeded to have her be built up as being this all-powerful being that not even Moon's magic can get rid of. Then she gets beaten by a horse in 5 seconds, and is then drowned in the magic. Fucking keck. She doesn't get a proper fight or anything. All we get is her taunting the butterflies with how powerful she is, as she's taken down instantly by a fucking horse. Everything in the second half was rushed, from the pacing, the emotions of the characters, and everything, especially Tom and Star. They have such a healthy relationship throughout season 3 and 4, even going to the extent of breaking the curse of the Blood Moon to stop Star and Marco from being together. And then, in a complete 180, Tom just randomly says he's breaking up. I'm not even into shipping, but this is just utter bullshit. Especially because 3 episodes ago, he was completely fine. Glossaric is completely useless now and hasn't had a single effect on the overall story since the beginning of season 3. Killing off Glossaric was a bold move, and having him just be something in the magic dimension was the best choice they could have gone with. But no, they just brought him back so he could keep making a few interesting filler episodes and appearances, and could keep shouting the name of Eclipse's husband, which wasn't needed at all. And then he becomes useless for the rest of the show and makes like 3 appearances in season 4 that had some sort of impact, which was very small. The stakes and action suck now. Nothing is satisfying in this show now, and when they do try some action, they either decide to reserve it for final battles that are built up for ages, only to end them in mere seconds because they don't have enough money to be an action show, or they just randomly throw in bad action scenes that have no stakes at all because the show's animation does not complement action at all with how wooden it is. The only decent action scenes in this show were in season 1 when the animation was fluid because they had a fucking budget, and Toffee vs Moon in season 2, which by the way lasted about 30 fucking seconds. Character development is thrown right out the fucking window, and the most we get for it is for Eclipse and an angsty Nar. I guess Nefsi just forgot. I don't care if this season is rushed. You can rush something and still manage to at least try and stay true to the show you've built up for years. But this season didn't even try. It wasted time with pointless filler, assassinated many of the characters, stopped those characters from growing as people, has a terrible ending that is littered with holes and contrivances, is tonally brain dead, has some of the worst writing I've seen in a long time, and simultaneously forgot about or blatantly ignored and brushed aside every good possible idea or way to end the series. You can like this season all you want, you can love this show all you want, and overall I still think this show is good, but this is one of the worst final seasons I've watched in a long time. It objectively fails at everything it sets out to do, and the amount of missed potential here is astounding. Maybe, just maybe, if Disney gave Darren and her crew the 5 seasons that they wanted, we wouldn't have this mess. But unfortunately, we do have this mess, and they didn't try to work around it or anything. This season and finale was a burning dumpster fire of disappointment that made the past 4 years of being invested in the show feel worthless. The fact that Gravity Falls is still the only Disney show to pull off a satisfying and fantastic finale is really not giving me hope for the new shows coming to Disney soon. But if this season was anything, it should act as an example of what not to do. I wanted to love it, I really did, but I feel dumber after watching this season, and no feeling of disappointment can ever match what I felt when I sat there staring at my computer screen with my mouth open when the credits started to roll.